As an individual with French-Canadian ancestry, can you shed some light on what happened to the Catholic Quebec? What were the causes of the Quiet Revolution, and is there any chance for a Catholic revival in Quebec anytime soon?
Well, there were a number of things that occurred all at the same time, as is the case with any historic event. Part of the problem, I think, really, lay with the elimination of the seigneurial class. That was what passed for our nobility in the latter half of the 19th century. Now, these folks were not strictly hereditary, although a lot of them were, if not most of them, because you could buy a seigneury. The title came with the land. But they were the only real lay leadership that French Canada had had. As time went on and we developed political classes, lawyers, doctors, notaries, people like that, they too kind of came to the fore, but they were not really ideologically all that much. The faith was very, very strong, and the bishops and priests had a huge sway. Now, that kind of a setup, as we've seen in Quebec and in Ireland and in the Netherlands, the southern Netherlands, has advantages and it has disadvantages. But the advantages are all closely connected to the quality of the clergy. In a setup like that, it can work so long as your clergy are pretty good. If they rot, everything rots around them. And you'll never guess what happened. That was part of it. Another problem for the French Canadian, and this is also true of the Irish and the Southern Netherlander, is that they were surrounded or connected to people of Protestant and very different views who were financially far better off, more advanced. And so their intellectual and chattering classes wanted to emulate them, you know. And so eventually, for a lot of the more influential types of people, sloughing off the faith was tantamount to becoming grown up. What it really meant, of course, was suicide, but these people were too bright to understand or to see that. Another part of it, too, of course, is that the old Quebec became politically identified with the late, great Maurice Duplessis, who, in my mind, was a great man, but he had a lot of enemies. And he certainly had his defects, he had his faults. And his political opponents naturally gravitated toward the anti-clerical side. So the whole thing was that if you were Catholic, you were for Duplessis, then you were stupid and corrupt and all that. Unlike people like Trudeau, who are stupid and corrupt. They're just not all that, or all there for that matter. You know, it wasn't just Trudeau, you also had people like René Lévesque and all that. This whole new nationalism. The problem is, at the very least, it destroyed Quebec's birth rate, and it destroyed the sense of mission that had sustained the French-Canadian people since the conquest. What was that sense of mission? The idea that we were a people whom God had implanted here in North America, not simply for our own wonderful sakes, but for the conversion of our Anglo neighbors. And that was completely gone. With that destroyed, well, why do we exist? And then, of course, as I say, the birth rate dropped. When the birth rate dropped to nothing, as a minority people had only been able to sustain itself through a massive birth rate, the writing of our doom on the wall became kind of apparent subconsciously, because as with every other country that becomes contraceptive, we could not address it directly. We couldn't look Medusa in the face. We couldn't be honest. We couldn't look at the elephant in the room. We had to pretend and look elsewhere and look away. The best thing that the French Canadian, like the Anglo-American, like the Anglo-Canadian, like anybody can do, is to force himself to look at what contraception has wrought. That way, he may stop blaming the other, in the case of the French Canadians, the Anglo, for what he's done to himself. Now, is there hope? Yeah, sure. There's always hope. We're still breathing. Beyond that, there are small groups of young people in Quebec who are attracted to our age-old tradition, who find the garbage that my generation and the one preceding embraced to be what it is, garbage. Where will that go? I don't know. It's easy for young people to be enthusiastic and idealistic. It's not so easy for them, A, to hold on to that idealism as they become middle-aged sellouts, and B, to actually affect change. Well, I should probably be a little bit more specific. Make positive change. It's always easy to be destructive, as my generation, I think, proved to, well, your satisfaction, if not ours. I don't think we still catch on yet to what we've done, especially the older part of my generation, who are exulting in all the liberty and freedom that brought. Anyway, that's, so yeah, I have hope, and maybe Eugene out there, you'll do something to revive la survivance. We'll see.
You know, you talk about the lack of birth rate in the United States, and you say, okay, the Spanish are going to replace us, and the Muslims are going to replace us. Well, who's going to replace? Is Canada the same situation as Spanish and Muslims?
No, well, Muslims more than anything else. They don't really have any Spanish.
Okay.
So all they've got are Muslims.
Okay.
But, it's not, the Spanish replacing us here aren't such a big deal, frankly, because if you're as dumb as we are, maybe we need to be replaced. But Europe are the ones with the real problem. I mean, the Latin Americans, by and large, are very genial people. They're not great for, well, I take that back as far as the drug cartels and all that go.
Okay.
But in terms of the, shall we say, more normal set, they're not really great ones for chopping off heads and fingers and doing things like that. The cartels, of course, on the other hand, that's another story.
Yeah.
But with any luck, they'll get what they give.
Okay. Oh, by the way, this question was asked like a year or two ago, but I thought we'd just revisit it because it's an important topic. So if you're really interested in this, Catholic New Englander, look up. I think you might look up off the menu Quiet Revolution or something like that.
Yeah. It's a tragedy. We were great people once upon a time. It's a tragedy.